this is a metaphor that is commonly used, the iceberg metaphor. Most systems thinking beginners lesson includes this, so I've decided to include it as well. So what typically happens, just taking it back to the homeland example, so when Carrie Matheson starts exploring, what is really going on, she puts all the facts together, right? And that's like the events, the bit that sticks out, the part of the iceberg that sticks out of the water, right? Things that are evident, that things in the news, things that everyone knows. But it's important to realize that's not the whole truth. There are undercurrents, the events don't pop up just like that. We can always know that there is an undercurrent behind it. And, and potentially there are patterns to that undercurrent, that we can perceive, if we look deep and make the right connections, look at it from different perspectives. So it's important to see those patterns, so that's an important part of systems thinking. But systems thinking asks us to not just see the patterns themselves exist because there are structures even beneath that which produces these patterns. Right? So how are these patterns coming, and what are the structures that exist that are creating this pattern? It's important to know that. And you have different levels of leverage when you operate at different levels, So at the event level, you can only react to it, right? So this ship here might decide, hey, the iceberg is this far away. It's okay if I can kind of go and take a turn around like this, but, little do they know what's lying under the water, right? So they might go and still crash in, on this part of the iceberg. So reacting is not enough. You need, as much as possible, be able to see, much beyond what's sticking out of the water. And therefore, you need to understand patterns. When you see patterns, then today, this is probably in the Titanic era, this is happening. Today we have, radars and sonars and satellite technologies, probably we'll get a much better picture of, what the iceberg looks like. And because we have a much better picture, we know, that it is not safe to go all the way close to the iceberg. So we know to predict, okay? But if we know even more than the patterns and we know about the structures, then we know how to actively design that. But when we say design, we are still operating within that structure. We know how to change things around. Maybe we're talking about some rules, some policies, some laws, or some physical infrastructure, that could be kind of altered here and there. But the structures themselves, that's again another point that systems thinking makes, that structures themselves don't form just out of thin air. We build a certain kind of structures because there is a mental model behind it. We build skyscrapers because there is a shortage of space. Because most people think that is a great place to live in. That's why there's a shortage of space, because planet Earth is big. People could go anywhere and live, but people choose to live there because there is a mental model behind, living in the cities is great, and you have facilities, and all kinds of things that goes with that. This is a mental model that's operating there. So if we operate at the level of mental models, we can go beyond designing into reframing reality. And that's where the power of systems thinking really gets unlocked, and when you want to transform what exists, think about it in a completely different paradigm, completely different perspective, and create a completely different mindset around things, then, you can actually transform what you see as well. So with that, I will kind of take a pause. We are almost at time, so I would like to quickly get your thoughts on any questions, any comments, any objections.
I think I'll go back to, I think it was Isabella who was talking and asking about the layers, how do you need to dig when you first start mapping that out? And I think winding up on, you're talking about these mental models and diving deeper and that at the very end, it's important to realize that this is a iterative process,
Yes.
right? And you're going to lay down something first and it's going to change. And so don't be married to that as being the end all when you're first doing it. And I find in business, that's probably maybe the trickiest part to get people to understand when you're working with them, is, and especially some leaders, is this isn't going to be the final process straight out the door, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And hence, that's the reason why I was saying that the artifacts that we produce as part of this kind of analysis is not, it's important from the perspective of it allows you a common language to explore a few things. It gives you certain view of the world, but it's very important to educate the stakeholders who are engaging in an exercise like this that this is it's a dynamic world, and we are trying to, provide the best guess that we have about this world at this point in time, with the people that we have in the room, right? And this is always subject to evolving. And, as we get more perspectives, more understanding, more facts, we will be able to create number of different ways to connect things and come up with more narratives about it, right? So it's a great point, actually. In real transformation, real organizations, you find that a lot. People try to, nail you down on a particular model, and then they say, you said it, right? So yeah. So I think we are at the end of time. So if there are no further questions, thank you so much to everyone for attending. And I will be posting this, of course.
Thanks, Joe. This is great.
Okay, thank you. So look forward to seeing.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Bye.
Bye.